Can you remember a crazier time?
Um, yes, I can.
How far back do you go to get to a time like this?
Well, I remember that. I remember that 9/11 was pretty crazy.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, like in fact, I have a friend who um, who was on a plane on 9/11, and he was looking around, and there was weird stuff going on the plane, and some nefarious looking people, and like there, it was a little weird. And then he was flying to Texas, I think. No, he was flying. No, he was flying to because he's flying out of the country. So he's flying into South America somewhere.
He was
And he,
leaving on 9/11.
what's that?
He was leaving the country on
Yes,
9/11.
he was leaving from New York
Oh gosh.
on 9/11, and he flew out, and he was on his way. He had his friends. He was going down to help a friend who needed a tissue sample brought to the United States for testing because of cancer or something. Anyway, so it was like he was on his way to help a friend do something with this tissue sample. And I think he was actually going to smuggle it or something because that was the only way to get this tissue sample to the hospital or something. Anyway, so he's on his way out of the country. And at the time, they take off in the morning, and there was like delays and weird stuff going on. They took off, and then as soon as they got in the air, they got diverted to Texas. And then when they landed, no flights.
Shut
Like,
down.
yeah, it shut down. Well, the whole place, the whole country was shut down. No air travel whatsoever. And so I think he had to like bum a ride, like two or three people that needed to get back up to New York somewhere ended up renting a car together, and they just they drove home together over the next couple days. So that was a weird time. I remember waking up. My mother-in-law called me and said something about uh, an airplane flying into a building or something. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll turn on the news. And I turned on the news. And right when I turn on the news, I'm watching the one building burning. And as I'm watching it, I see the second one go
Live.
live. And I was
Yeah.
like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, I
And
saw the
then,
second plane hit live and I saw the first tower fall live.
yeah, I mean, and then from then on out, it was
Well, when the second plane hit, everything changed in a second.
in a second. Yeah. Cause at
You were just
first it's
like,
an
"Well,
accident.
that's not an accident anymore."
Nope. Yeah. And then the markets began to fall, and all hell broke loose.
I do
So
think that yeah, I have to go back that far to how strange this is. I know 2008 was a hard time too, and people are bringing up both of those events, but this is more akin to 9/11 to me,
yeah,
just
it
because of
is.
how
But I think this is
unprecedented it seems to me.
I think this is more serious than 9/11 because it's a bit self-inflicted, the damage that's going on with the economy. And so I think we're causing, whether it's right or wrong, to be worried about, to be, hoarding food and whatever, whether that's prescient or whether that's panic. Regardless of which way that goes, we're kind of inflicting damage upon our own economy rather than some outside player doing it. And so I think it's, I think 5 months from now, we're either going to look back and be grateful that we panicked, or we're going to look back and say, boy, that was a lot of panic over something that didn't need to be panicked over.
I think you're right. It might happen sooner. I hope it happens sooner than that.
Oh,
On
I
one hand, I
sure.
think that though, don't you think that we talked about this within a couple of these interviews already, but don't you think that it'll be okay if we're laughing at ourselves a month from now?
Sure.
If
Yeah.
we
I
can
don't
say,
mind.
hey, you
I
know
don't
what,
mind.
that was an overreaction. That was silly.
Yeah. No, it would be better. It would be better if it was us laughing at ourselves than it would be if we were all crying because we had
Well,
not taken the threat
we,
seriously.
I mean,
So,
we're kind of, in a sense, to me, it's kind of like we're all living within this Pascal's wager scenario where it's like, yeah, on one hand, I mean, because we don't know, there's so much we don't know, right? But if you do things a certain way and it turns out to be for naught, at the very most, you can laugh at yourself and be like, well, that was an overreaction, ha ha ha, and life goes on. The
right.
other end of that coin is if you choose to just not care and do whatever, and it turns into a big fat mess, then who knows what I don't even know what that looks like, right? So why not rather be? It's kind of like rather be safe than sorry, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I like there's stories and I saw it. I saw like somebody, I don't know, a TikTok video or something like that. Some girl licking a toilet on an airplane or whatever, just to
Oh,
prove that it's, yeah. I mean, and she's not going to get the coronavirus. She's going to get hepatitis B.
well,
Good luck. Good luck
also,
to her.
also, what does TikTok think about about what you like to see now?
Well, I didn't see. No, it wasn't me. I saw it on someone else's. So I'm just. Someone's like, look at this, and so I looked at their phone. So I'm not.
Okay.
I don't even have a TikTok account. So I have no
Yeah, yeah.
idea. You know, TikTok doesn't know me from Adam. So
Oh,
fortunately, because that's a cesspool.
yeah, it is. Yeah. What are
There's a
you
lot of
doing?
cesspools these days, by the
What?
way. There's a lot of cesspools these days. It's like you have to tiptoe through the cesspools of online media and social media. It's ridiculous.
It's insane. It's crazy enough what some of my friends send me via text sometimes, just to shock and all, and you. There's something going around right now that my brother sent me the other day, and I was like, What are you doing?
Yeah, why?
Why would I?"
What about me makes you think I want to see that?
Yes. Then I
Yeah.
start looking at myself. I'm like, well, who am I? What do people think I am? Like, what?
Right. Well, that's a good point. Is when people send you something like that, you think maybe I'm putting the wrong vibe out there. Maybe I'm letting people think that I'm interested in this thing.
Uh,
You know,
what are you doing right now? I mean, what does your life look right now?
it's pretty much
What does your life look like right now?
it's the same, except that my kids are home and my wife is home because my wife is a teacher. My kids obviously should be in school at this point, but they're not. And my wife
It's the same, but not the same at all.
not the same at all because I have a studio in my home, so I
Right.
work out of my home, and so I have to let them know, hey, I'm recording something right now, so you have to not yell and scream or whatever and
Right.
like play, and
Right.
so they have to go out in the backyard and play or something. But it's the thing is that Arizona is not in the epicenter of anything. We're typically immune from all natural disasters, and things don't hit us very hard.
Yeah.
Probably because it's hot here or whatever. And so I don't know what the reasoning behind it is, but we only have like, I don't know, 15 cases or something like that, and they're all known, and one of them is an entire family, so it's fairly minimal. The cities have kind of shut down quite a bit, and the stores have no food in them and things like that, but my family's always been fairly good at kind of keeping a full pantry and some food storage and stuff like that, because that's kind of just, we're prepared people. We're Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
And so we're fine. I had to go. The one thing I'm out of right now is
Toilet paper.
pasta.
Oh.
I don't know who's hoarding pasta. We just wanted to make spaghetti last night, so I went to the store to get spaghetti. The whole pasta aisle is just empty, and I guess it's because it's an easy thing to make. or maybe it's because all pasta really does come from Italy.
Ah, yeah,
I doubt that's true,
right,
but maybe,
right.
maybe
Yeah,
that's true.
I've heard the lot when it comes to that type of stuff. People have advised me not to eat Chinese food, and I was like, why?
Don't eat
I'm dead
Chinese food.
serious. It really happened, and the person was not joking. And I was like, I don't think that's how it works at all. And they were
In
talking
fact,
to me and
I
telling me, obviously, we can't eat Chinese food.
I
I was
can
like, no,
guarantee
that's not true.
you that that's not the case because I've eaten Chinese food here and I've eaten Chinese food in China,
Yeah,
and they're not the same things.
they are different.
I like Chinese food in America.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not a fan of Chinese food in China.
Well,
It's
we
a
tend
very
to.
different type of food.
Well, you could say that to some degree with Italy too. Although I
That's true.
love
I love,
Italian food in Italy.
yes, I would rather eat the Italian food in
Holy
Italy.
cow!
Yes. And I'll tell you
Yeah,
what, I am I'm pulling for Italy. Like I feel for them, and I love those people.
yeah,
They're super great people, and their food is great, and their history is awesome, and
yeah.
so I'm pulling for them. Like that's difficult. So
What are you doing business wise? What does this look like for you personally from a business standpoint?
well, it's challenging because things get canceled and things get pushed, and I have I think three different jobs, a couple small ones and one really big one, um, just got pushed. I'm
Not
doing
canceled.
I do a lot of commercial work,
Yeah.
and some of it has to do, a lot of it has to do with hospitals and medical and stuff like that. And so we do a lot of work where, so like one of my jobs that I'm actually helping with, the White House Custom Colors helping with.
Mm.
We've done it once before and we're doing it again. It's a big thing where we bring in all of these women who have terminal breast cancer, basically.
Mm.
Like it's they're just managing living with cancer, basically. That's kind of what it is. And they put together experiences for these women, and one of those experiences, we're making a portrait of each of these women as kind of an heirloom, and then White House prints the photos, which is amazing because they do it at next to nothing.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're just donating this stuff to us,
Yeah.
and it's a really great experience for these ladies. And then we do like this lecture where they come together and they have like a luncheon, and then I talk about the importance of photography and how it becomes a document and a record, and we talk about record keeping through imagery and stuff like that. So it's like a whole month worth of things that we do with them, and then at the end we reveal these portraits, and they bring their family in, and they get these I mean, it's a really great thing, and White House has been awesome about it. But they're immune deficient, like because they're in chemo and
Oh,
so you can't have these people meet
no,
together when
no.
so we push that. So we don't know what that might be in the fall now, something like that. So big projects like that have gotten pushed. A lot of little jobs for other medical professional type stuff have been pushed. Fortunately, I didn't have a wedding that was in this time frame, so nothing's gotten pushed there yet. In fact, I have someone specifically inquiring about a wedding right now,
Yeah.
but their wedding isn't till May, and so they're hoping like it's a small, so it might not need to be all that big,
Right.
so that I think
Well,
they'll keep
hopefully
the
that
wedding big.
everything's on the track to be coming back to normal at some point in
Yeah, we
May.
hope. But the thing is that it's difficult when you don't have cash coming in. But there's still a lot of stuff that I have to do. I've got jobs that I'm finishing from other,
Yeah.
I've got weddings that I can create their albums. I
Yep.
can work with them, and they're at home right now. So it's fairly easy to start talking about albums with people.
Yeah.
It's like there's things that we can be doing. And I think that if we just sit on our hands and panic, that's the worst thing that we can do. The best thing we can do is just keep busy and, clean the house and clean the files and make sure that you're in, like, if you're completely caught up by the time all of this is done, that'll actually be a good thing.
Right.
So
Silver lining.
Yeah, there's some silver linings in that. Yeah, you have to take a forced pause, but work as much as you can. I've been working late at night. Like, I've been working all the way till I go to bed. So I haven't stopped working and I haven't slowed down, but it's given me a chance to do a lot of other things. I'm recording a workshop for Pro Photo. So things like that, I'm still doing stuff, a lot of stuff. So
how is this affecting you? Oh, like mentally or emotionally? What sort of things run through your mind in that space?
Well, I'm not super panicked about the virus itself because it seems to be manageable. Like, I've heard interviews with 60-year-old people who have gotten it and gotten over it. And I've heard, so I'm not worried about, and it doesn't seem to affect young people and kids and people my age. And so, and so I'm not too concerned about virus wise. Like, I'm not hunkering down because I'm afraid I'm going to die. The thing that affects me a little bit negatively that's got me like worried is just the economic impact of all of this. Like, I don't know how someone who has to close their restaurant for a month, I don't know how you get back from that unless you're a chain restaurant. But if you're a sole proprietor and you have to close your doors for a month, I really worry about that kind of impact. Not only I feel for the people that have to close, but I wonder about the impact that it's having on the economy and how long it's going to take to get back. Because the economy was going well, and we were getting to the point where you could say, yeah, people can spend money when they want to spend money. And
right.
I'm afraid that's not going to be the case for a while after this, unless somehow just magically just boom, as soon as I hope that everybody just starts life as normal again. But I'm afraid if you have too many businesses closed down, you're going to have some pretty serious economic impact. So one of the things that I've been thinking hard about and working on is how can I retract and make sure that I'm not spending too much. And that's, I think, important. Just like look around and make sure that you don't have an extra account that you don't need, or you don't have an extra whatever that you don't need. And so I've been doing that, a lot of searching on that and saying, okay, I could limit, like I have a storage facility that I could probably cut in half.
Yeah.
So why not? I've got time. I might as well go over there and move it to a smaller.
You're analyzing your expenses.
Yeah. And I think that's important, especially right now because I don't think it's gotten so bad. We haven't been in a slow lockdown for very long yet. And so it's not like, I don't think it's economically impacting people right now, but I think it will 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
And so it's
and
like
beyond.
Yeah. And take stock of right now, because you've got a little time before you might have some economic issues. Yeah. So take stock now and figure out what it is you need to do differently just in case. And then if it turns out that everything roars back, great. You've just saved yourself some money. And so that's kind of where my head is at, that I'm a little worried about that economic impact. But in the end, I'm pretty positive, and I'm a pretty optimistic person, even though sometimes I'm too optimistic. Sometimes I think things are going to be great, even if they're not. So that can always be, you can think sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and stuff like that, but that doesn't mean they're going to happen. So I can often be a little too overly optimistic about my chance.
The fine line between optimistic and realistic, right?
Right. Exactly. But I'm optimistic that I think things will be okay. And I think that people band together. I think people are pretty good in their nature is pretty good generally.
Yeah.
And so like my neighbor just came over, who's a police officer, who he and his wife were running like a little business. I don't know, over the last couple of years, they've been running like a little clothing business or something.
Yeah.
And I think they finally shut that down, but they had all this photography gear, lighting things and, little lights and clips and whatever that they were using to photograph this clothing. And he just shows up at my door and he's like, "Hey, I know you're a photographer. Maybe you need this stuff. Maybe you could use this stuff. If not, maybe there's someone that needs like an extra umbrella or whatever." And I'm like, "Yeah, I've got everything I possibly could use photography wise.
Right.
But thank you." Like, that's
right.
cool.
Right.
People generally are looking out for each other.
Yeah.
And so I think that, one thing that people ought to be doing right now, and I think that this is probably the best thing that someone can do, is if you're worried about the virus, if you're worried about economics or whatever,
yeah,
the best thing that you can be doing right now is going outside yourself and looking, how's my neighbor?
Yeah.
How's my friends? Call some people and find out how their people are doing, and see if you can serve someone and help someone else. Because the first rule of fixing your own depression and your own sadness and your own fear is by looking for other people to help.
Yep.
And I think if you can do that, you can get a better solid foundation for dealing with this kind of situation. And I think more people ought to be doing that. And I think people are, but if you're scared, someone else is scared, so go find out and talk through it together and help each other. And
I think the remedy for fear are things like service and communication and action. Like making something happen, even if it's just online, even if it's just a FaceTime call or a Skype call or something, just reaching out to somebody. I mean, the isolation is what's going to, and we've said this too, but physically we need to be isolated, right? But
we don't have to be isolated
socially. We don't have to be isolated because of the technology that we have. I mean, this is actually, we talk about the cesspools online, right?
Right.
But that same technology is powerful both ways, in that we can use it to communicate. We can use it to still work. We can use it to still create content that's helpful to others. Like there's so much that we can be doing right now, and that we actually, in some ways, have an opportunity to do because of the situation.
Right. Which you're doing right now. I mean, the idea of having conversations and getting them out there is great.
Right.
And I think that, it's, and Jed, what you're doing is trying to provide a little bit of hope and a little bit of
sure
entertainment and a little bit of joy, and hey, it's okay. And that's great. And that's kind of worldwide to everybody in our photo community. But remember that there are people right next door. Yes. And right across the street, and in your church, and in your local photo community, and like in your school, and your kids' parents and stuff like that, that they're having the same concerns and problems and fears. And so we're all in the same boat. So just reach out to people, even if it's not physically. Reach out to them and say, "Hey, is there anything you need? Is there anything I can do for you?" Even if it's just the fact that you asked is a good thing.
How's it going with your family?
Good.
Like, how are they doing with it?
They're fine. We've been very clear with our kids about, hey, don't fear death, and don't worry about it. You're going to be fine. Even if you got the coronavirus, you'd be fine. You'd be sick for a couple of weeks, and then you'd be better. And so we've been very positive with them on that score. And open with them, so that they understand we don't want you to get sick, and so you should wash your hands, and you shouldn't go wrestle with your buddies and whatever. You should just but if you want to go throw a ball in the park, that's fine. Just wash your hands after you throw the ball.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Right.
So we've been very clear with them on that. They're going stir crazy because they're forced to stay in the house. My oldest boy doesn't mind it because he's kind of like a recluse, kind of, he likes to just do things on his own anyway.
Yeah.
But my younger son, oh my gosh, he wants to play ball. He wants to play football. He wants to run. He can't stand not moving. So that's rough. They got to go to the park and run it off.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But the kids are doing fine, and my wife worries because she doesn't have any clue when she's going back to school, or if she's going back to school, or what's happening there.
Right. And
none of us know that. So that's, but we're fine. There's, nobody's sick and my brother has a young son who has cancer though. He's 3 years old, has cancer, and is going through chemo. And so he's on lockdown. Like he won't even let me in the door. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they are self-quarantined because they don't want anything coming in that door. And I totally understand, because he's immune deficient beyond belief.
Right.
And so that to me that's what scares me about this, is that those people that I know that are very susceptible. Yeah. And
the vulnerable.
They're the people that could die from things.
Yeah.
And so I have another friend who has cystic fibrosis.
Yep.
So she's at risk from that.
Sure.
Although I'll tell you what, you could learn something from this girl. She is, people with cystic fibrosis don't live very long, because they get sick and then it overcomes them. So that if they get the flu, it becomes pneumonia, and
huge deal for somebody with CF. Yeah.
Right. But man, she just lives life. She is fearless, because she knows that 34 years old would be a very old age for her. Right. And she's in her 20s, and she just lives fearlessly and happy and serving, which there's an example, is that she lives to serve other people, and she loves helping people, and she's positive, and like, she got her dream job, which was working at Feed My Starving Children. Oh my. Like, that was her dream job. So she's running around helping set up these events where people help pack food for starving kids, and so I think of people like that's a person that's been living with the fear of coronavirus or whatever her whole life. Yeah. Has been that. Yep. And yet she doesn't let it stop her, and she doesn't let she doesn't let it overtake her. She just keeps moving, and she serves other people, and she's happy, and she has fun. And I got to think that she worries about what that's going to be like. I got to think that she worries about getting sick, but she doesn't let it overtake her. It is, she's probably one of the greatest examples. Yeah, it's an example for all of us. And right now, more than ever, I feel like, because it's so easy to panic. Yeah, I think it really can be, and it's so easy to go into a downward spiral. And it can be hard to come out of that. But I think that some people like her, people that we can look at and say, that's how we need to be living right now. That's how I need to be taking things day by day right now. Right. Take your precautions, but don't allow fear to overtake you. Right. Like, I think of, so in the Bible, when I think it's Thomas, because doubting Thomas. Oh yeah. And Christ says, doubt not, just be believing. But he said, but it's the be believing that's interesting, because it's not believe, it's be believing.
It's like remain in that
It
mindset.
That's right. It's a
Be
mindset.
there.
He's saying, just be in the believing mindset. Be in
Yeah.
that hopeful, faithful. Uh, have hope. Like own it, keep it. Like keep that believing spirit in you, so that you don't allow fear to petrify you.
I think hope is what separates joy from happiness. Because it can be real easy to not be happy right now.
Sure, yeah.
But if we have hope, like on that, we're going to get to the other side of this.
Right.
I think that's what joy looks like. I can have joy because of that hope that we're going to all make it to the other side of this, and we're all going to be okay, right? And we can do this together, and not be happy.
Right.
I could be upset.
Yeah. But you still have hope.
Right.
So you can still joyfully go through an unhappy period of life.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. That's it.
You know that my brother, he's my brother that has the child with the cancer. He said something the other day that struck me. Like he was just said it, and I went, "Wow." He said it was when they found out the mortality rate of their son's cancer, like what the chances were of survival, and then what the chances are of like being healed, right? And he said, and I forget the exact percentage, but he basically said, but he's 100% alive right now. And I thought, yeah, yes, he is. And you know what? Everybody that's listening to this podcast, everybody that's listening is 100% alive right now. And so, work while it's day, like do something now while you have what you have, because you have it right now. So take advantage of it and do it. You don't know what's coming tomorrow, but whatever it is, not doing anything today isn't going to change it.
Yeah.
So it's like another friend of mine always says, don't borrow trouble from tomorrow.
Oh, I like that.
And that when you have fear of tomorrow and you allow that to change what you do today, then tomorrow's already won.
Yeah.
And tomorrow might not even, the trouble tomorrow might not even come.
Right.
But if you borrow it and you use it and you fear today for what's tomorrow, and tomorrow doesn't even have anything to fear, you've just wasted today.
I think Mark Twain said something like 95% of the things I've worried about in my life actually never happened.
Exactly.
Something along those lines. And I think about that a lot because I can be a worrywart. I can really struggle with anxiety sometimes and nervousness, and I can say the same thing. My number might be much higher. I might be at like 99.9% of the things that I worry about and that I'm concerned about have never occurred historically in my life.
See, now I'm the opposite because I have my superpower that I've told you before. And so I typically don't worry enough about what could come tomorrow, but it makes my life a little more pleasant because I don't worry enough about the things that could happen. Like people around me worry for me.
You just let them worry for you.
Yeah, I'm just like, well, you're worried enough for both of us.
So I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. So, but I think the real key is just take your precautions.
Yeah.
But live with hope and do something and help people around you and check in on people around you. And I think that's, if you do that, whether or not your business fails or whether or not you get the virus and have to spend 2 weeks in quarantine and you're feeling sick or whatever, just do what you can today.
Yeah.
So
wise counsel, my friend. Wise counsel.
And speaking of which, I'm about to go take my son to hang out with a friend. So we're living the day,
Be careful.
Yeah. Well, it's not 10 people, it's 2 people. So,
Gotcha.
right.
Hey, thanks for this.
Yeah.
I
Good
appreciate
to
it.
see you.
You
Usually
too.
we're just talking like we're voices. This is weird.
I know people are actually going to see what we look like this time.
Yeah. All right. Well, take care. Be safe, and thanks for chatting.
You too, brother. Have a good one. I'll see you next time.
It's always good to chat with you, buddy.